Music. Listening is an integral and oftentimes purposeful activity in our daily lives. We listen to particular tracks in order to change our current emotional state or in order to maintain it. How we react to a particular song not only depends on the musical attributes of that song, but on various situational and personal factors. A very warm welcome to the brand new season 7 of EI Cafe with Azim. And I'm your host, Azim Sahil, a human capital specialist, a Lego series play facilitator, ICF certified coach, emotionally intelligent, and emotional culture day practitioner. Here we are again for another interesting topic with a brand new episode. Yes, today we are going to talk about music as an integral and emotional regulation strategy for human being. On that note, I have a guest, a very well-known guest. Let me quickly introduce. Of course, no need introduction for this individual, especially on the Sri Lankan context and in globally. Let me introduce him. Since the inception of their act in 1998, there have been over 50 number one hit singles, 6 platinum selling mainstream albums, 4 commercially successful EPs, and countless movie soundtracks. They are very well known as BNS, are one of the biggest musical act hit in the Sri Lankan musical scene since the 90s. BNS also the only Sri Lankan artist to have album under both Sony BMG and Universal Music India. Of course, not only the musicians, they are entrepreneurs as well. So BNS currently are the primary shareholders of the BNS production group, which houses some of the most successful companies in the Sri Lankan entertainment industry. So with that note, I have B out of NS. So ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome Bathiya Jayakody. Right. So Bathiya, thank you very much for that. For accepting my invitation. I know we have been trying to get hold of.
Very
of
much
course,
for having me on your show.
All right. So once again, Bhati, you saw a little bit of introduction I was giving. Yes, music has been an amazing platform, especially in terms of emotions and feelings in terms of it. Before I go to that particular note, I'm just curious to know, like, how did you really land, you and Santosh, into this particular industry, or is it a secondary or primary focus when you were getting out of school?
Well, actually, this was a very, very interesting hobby for myself and both Santosh as well when we were in school. And we were quite serious about this hobby because I started playing, I started playing the piano when I was about 6 years. And then we moved, I did a lot of stuff in school.
Right.
I was in the school band and so many things. And so was he. He was involved in so many things like singing and so many things from school days. And so after school also our hearts were in it. But when you take us in a sense of a very, after school, in terms of education, both of us have done marketing, finance, and onto the economics and business perspective. We both completed our degrees, and then we started to work in top corporates in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
And then after that, quit our jobs and then started to do this full time. So coming into music was mainly because it was the passion. That was our primary passion. And it did not mean that we were not good at what we did on the other end, but we were very good at our education as well. If you take myself and both, we were very good and we excelled at what we did. But our hearts, in our hearts, our passion, the primary passion was to do music.
Right. Fantastic. Why I want to ask that, and you really spot on the passion perspective. If you ask the younger generation, because I'm into corporate, so when you go to corporates and ask what's your passion, they really, really, really struggle to answer. And they are thinking that whatever they do is part of the passion. So I'm really no, I didn't know that you and Santosh were part of a big corporate. and you quit that and coming into passion. I think you need to have a lot of courage into it, isn't it, Bathiya?
See, what happens is for most of us from school days in Sri Lanka, mostly when it comes to the conventional thinking kind of, when you come from a conventional thinking household, you're groomed to think that, you need to pass your exams and everything and do a job. Nobody tries to push you to be an entrepreneur. Nobody tries to push you to be an artist. Nobody tries to push you into those things. If and unless you take that step. So that is one problem that we have in the Sri Lankan culture. And uh, mostly it's very easy for you to take a risk and pursue your passion when you're younger, because then you don't have too many commitments. You can take that risk, and then you don't have too many dependents all around you. So that's the easier time. But there are lots of people who have done it even at a very later stage in their life, but then there is so much to lose, so much at risk, more than when you're young. So fortunately for us, we took that risk at a very, very young age. As in immediately after doing the degree, going to a job. Immediately 1 or 2 years into it, we thought, no, we'll try to take this risk and do it. And it really paid off for the two of us. So if you're going after your passion, for young people, do it now. But even if you're a bit older, you still can do it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. You heard the message from Bathiya, yes. So Bathiya, here we're coming to the main part of the whole conversation. Music and emotions. How do you think it's connect? And can it really help us to regulate our emotion in difficult times? Why I'm asking this is currently everybody is going through, and we are expecting next 6 months is going to be a really, really tough time. On that note, how can music help us?
So, first of all, I would like to say, prior to going into that, when have you ever heard people say that it's going to be good?
That's a good one. Challenges will not stop.
Heard that, right? Every time the past has been much better than what the future holds. So, any country you go to, most of the people say that. Right? It's a never-ending cycle. So you first have to break that cycle prior to addressing any emotion. Absolutely. Because that is the first emotion, that's the first kind of sentiment and thought that you need to break.
Right.
Because at any given point, at any given worst situation, what you need to think is, okay, you need to brace for an impact, but also you need to thrive, to excel and go beyond that problem you have. Right. So most of the people love to sob. Most of the people like to stop and complain. Most of the people like to blame one another. Most of the people like to blame somebody else for your problem. So as a country, we are like that. As people, we are like that. Everywhere it's like that. Most of the people are like that. Few people will always see, okay, yes, they will brace for impact. Now, if you saw during a 2.5 year pandemic, some companies braced for impact, but they also thrived. Some companies, some people just closed shop. Yeah. So there are various people, but most of the people, as I said, most people like to blame somebody for their problem.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's one mindset that we need to get out of if we are to thrive. Right. So, and you need to think that, okay, things happen to you. It's circumstance. You analyze the circumstance. See what you have to do, right? And then you have to start doing what you need to do. So now, keeping that there, coming and talking about emotions and how people relate it to music. So music is very much in link with your emotion. Even a drama or a film, if you watch with no music, you will have a blank slate. Right? You will have a very, 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 very blank slate. Right? Like if you watch a film with no sound in it, just imagine. You won't feel anything.
Yeah.
So sounds are connected with time, space, right? With time and space. So sounds connect you to a past experience. Sounds will connect you to a new experience. Right? more than what you see, right? If you sounds are more powerful than pictures.
Okay.
Even a sad scene in a film or a movie without the sound won't impact you as it will. But an audio can impact you even without the visual.
Yeah. I agree. I think that when you listen to that, you create that picture, right?
Now, say for example, if you take a song of ours, there's a song called Hitavavan Nemane.
Okay.
Why we didn't make an official music video for it is simply because we got fans coming and telling us the experience with the song in different manners. Somebody said that it reminds me of my break. Somebody comes and tells that it reminds me of the day that my father was in hospital and this song was playing on radio while I went to hospital and then he died. Somebody might say that, it reminds me of some other thing. So that one song can trigger a common emotion, but in various different forms. So music is very much connected to emotions, but you have to know which one to take at what given time.
Yeah.
Because it can spoil your mood, it can depress you, also it can make you happy. And it can give you positive thoughts.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So it is in your hands how you connect with music. And when we create music also, that is the exact connection we have with the thing that we create. So sometimes when you are in a really, really good, a thriving mood, you sit down and you start creating a happening party song. Sometimes when you are even when you talk about, when you talk about two people falling in love, or when you talk about love itself, you get different forms of love. Even with your wife or your girlfriend, you get different forms of relationship.
Absolutely.
It can be lust. It can be, it can be,
compassion.
That form of that puppy love. It can be compassion-driven love. So it can be so many forms of love, even within one relationship. So when you create songs, when you create especially a breakup song or a love song or whatever, it can be positive, it can be negative. So it's very much created to the mood that you sit down to do something.
Yeah.
And also sometimes when you do songs for a particular film or a movie or a script, you absorb that script and you go into that mood while creating. And also beyond creating that piece of music, when that piece of music is done, you come out of that. But then when you want to translate it to your fans, how are you going to do it? Because now you need to shoot a video, you need to do so many things.
Yeah.
Then you sit down with that emotion and translate that into, to pictures, to moving images. So this is all a very complex thing. Right?
Yeah.
So people will call it many things. People will say, oh no, he's talking about emotions, but what they are doing is they are marketing it. No, the primary content of a song is always that emotion. How the fan relates to that emotion. Sometimes I may create a song, on a very compassionate kind of love, but you might listen to that song and that moment you might be in a very, very lustful relationship. And you might translate that into that emotion. So it's a very subjective thing as how the person creates it and how the fan absorbs it is also a very, very subjective thing to what sort of thing that you are going through at that moment.
Fantastic.
So each one of us will have that nostalgia with some old song in many different ways. Right. It can be on a common ground, but many sub elements will be there for each one of us. So, right. So that is how a creation and emotion is, comes together and binds.
In fact, you have answered the next question as well. When I was like, when you want to compose music, what do you really connect the hearts and the minds of people? And can I ask you?
It's very simple.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Even if you have to create objectively, say, for example, if somebody gives you a script and says that you have to create an angry song, right? Whereas, okay, you're creating a song for a particular cause to win rights. You can't just say that you're at home seated and watching a very lovey-dovey movie. You can't suddenly close that and go and create that. You need to go and watch some news, current affairs, what's happening in society, how these things happen, all over the world.
You absorb it.
That mood, you absorb that mood. Then you think, okay, how am I going to react in this situation?
Right.
Then you start creating.
Right.
So it's always been a creation, always stems out of emotion.
So if I ask you, if I say like this, you need a lot of empathy in your work. Is that correct? Because you need to get into that particular feeling.
I wouldn't call it empathy, but I would say that you need to have a very, very open mind to create, because you have to be able to absorb many different emotions.
Right.
To create.
Right.
So you have to be, before you start creating, you have to be a blank slate in order to absorb that particular thing. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Got it.
You can't be sad and start creating happy. You have to first get over sad, be blank,
right,
then absorb happy, and then start creating it.
Right.
Get my point?
Yeah, I got that point. So what you're trying to say is you have to create that environment for you to get into that particular, start the script or the soundtrack. Yeah. Exactly. All right. So, Bathiya, I'm curious to know, like, is there any of your fans, any of your colleagues, any of your close network comes and say, I listen to this music, it's super, it really resonates and it really made my mood, it made my day. I think many of they have come, for example.
Many people. So we get, like what you said, exactly, we get both. Like, say, some people come and say, I really don't like that song because it really reminds me of a bad episode of my life, so I don't like to listen to it. Some people will come and say, wow, I really love that song because it reminds me of this.
Yeah.
So, but at that time, as the creator, what you have to do is you have to absorb that person's emotion, but you should not react to it.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
Because the moment you go to react to it, that person gets a different vibe than to what he or she is feeling.
What do you do in that situation? What do you do?
For example, in that situation, you just need to be a listener. When somebody tells me about a song that I created, if it's good or bad, I don't go to react to them. I just listen to them and I say, oh, okay. It's good to hear that, you have felt this. Or I'm happy to hear that you have felt this, because I try to say the same thing. If not, well, I try to say this, but you have absorbed something very different. So
that's the conflict.
Nice. Because, why? Because they are relating a personal experience. So you have to be like a shrink. You can't be a judge. Of hand. You have to be their shrink. You have to listen to them. You have to absorb and you need to understand what they're trying to say. Right?
Yeah.
That is what you should be doing when a fan comes and tells you.
Right.
If a fan is overjoyed by this thing, you also can't be overjoyed and jump. You need to say, fantastic. I'm happy that, you are overjoyed by this. And if a fan comes and says, shit, you made my day really bad. You can't get back and say, what's wrong? No. Oh, is that why? And you also need to start thinking, why did that happen? Ask that person a few questions and say, why did it happen? What's going on in your life? Right? And so once after you create, you have to be very you have to be in that middle ground with everything. But when you perform it, you can go to your original space and start performing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, got it. Thank you very much for sharing that. I think it's a very valuable point as well, because most of the thing, let's forget about the music, not music, any conversation. If somebody who really coming with a little bit of a different emotional element, and generally we try to react to it. I think one learning we should take is not to react and just listen and absorb it. So thank you very much for sharing that. So my next question, I'm just trying to really deviate a little bit. You do coach young talent, and I've seen you on an international platform coaching A
voice,
lot
right?
of, yeah, the voice element. What do you look out for them in coaching? Why I'm asking this, I personally have seen you. There are a lot of new people come with and sing with you all. And right, name few is, I've seen Ashanti coming in, I've seen Arandi coming in, I've seen Umaria coming in, Johan is now coming in. And I believe Dinesh also, right, has been part of it, if I'm not mistaken.
So,
AKD. Yeah.
ADK, yeah.
ADK, yeah.
ADK, yeah.
So, and you have groomed them and you have let them go as well. No, in a corporate context, this is what we are trying to teach them, right? You need to groom leaders and let them grow and,
The
glorify.
thing,
What is your take on this?
the thing is, Asim, in countries like Sri Lanka, we are told that, okay, we'll start from your home. If you're a parent, you need to know that if you have a kid, the kid is not going to do what you want them to do after a certain point. Your job is to groom that kid to be a good person to the society and then let the kid go.
Yeah.
Because you and I wanted that freedom. You and I had aspirations.
Yep.
So, yes, up to a certain point of life, you will listen to your parents. But then beyond that, you become a parent yourself. And then you sometimes know a little bit more beyond your parents in certain things. Certain things in experience in life, obviously, they will know that. But so what happens is, even in an industry, even being a corporate or whatever, you need to know that people come to you and the best people who come to you. If they are really good, that means they have aspiration, they have ambition, they have long-term goals. So they are coming to you to spread their wings. And your job is to teach them how to spread their wings, let them spread their wings. And while they learn to spread their wings, they will also be an uplifting part for you. But at a certain point, they also want to be singularity. That is a part of human life. If not, you won't be able to work with the best. Absolutely. You will be working with the second best always. The second best they won't have ambition. Yeah. They won't have that passion. So when you work with the best, you need to know that at some point you let them go. But when you give them that freedom, while flying on their own, they will always come back to you and nest for some time and go back again and come back. It's like kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when a parent is a friend to a kid, when a parent is supported, the kid will always be with the parent like a friend until the parent is old. But if you have been a very strict parent, if you have been a very parent who tries to control, the kid will slowly start drifting away. Very similarly in a corporate or a work environment. Absolutely. You need to let them grow at one point, because then that's how you see people coming in as a junior executive, going up to middle management, leaving the company, growing a bit more and coming back as the CEO of the same company. Yeah. So this is a part of life. So when you work with new talent, even when we do voice, we always say that we look for that person who is different, who he needn't be the best singer in the world. He needn't be the best composer in the world. But does he or she have passion? Does he or she have a certain amount of skill? And most of all, does he or she has the correct attitude to win life in general? This is what we look at. Fantastic. Because you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have the correct attitude, yes, go and win. If you don't have compassion yourself for others, if you are a cutthroat competitive, that is not somebody that we would like to work. Brilliant. Brilliant. Right? So this is what we look at, and this is what we try to teach. Because most of these people who come there, they know to sing. Yeah. They just need a few tweaks here and there. Yeah. They just need a few advices here and there. Now, even if you take a girl like Umaria, she came to us when she was a school girl to the studio to sing. Because anyway, a born brilliant singer, she has that talent. only a few things like, okay, on a show, we might give her a tip or whatever, but she's born with it. That is what she expects from us. She expects us to be like the big brothers at that point. And giving her that exposure into various different areas of the industry. That's what she needs. Similarly, with all these young men and women who come, or young people who come to the Voice or wherever, singing they know. If they don't know or they have not learned, we can give them certain tips.
Yeah.
But we need to give them overall grooming, how to handle themselves in the industry. So this is what we do, and this is what most people don't understand.
Of course, yes. I agree with that. This is what we also try to encourage the leaders. This is what you need to look out for, because they look out for their security, because the performance may go down if we let this guy go out. So I think you had touched really valid point. But we are coming to the end of our conversation. I just want a quick one, and I really pick this particular area when I talk about culture in an organization context. When you try to change cultures, not change, I mean, take a transition in terms of culture, there's always a challenge. People resist. I remember 1998 when you guys were coming out with Siri Sangabodhi, right? There's been a lot of barriers for you all, if I'm not mistaken. People talk a lot of things, but if you have not, my perspective, personal perspective, if you've not taken that particular challenge there, I don't think we will have such an industry in Sri Lanka at correct moment. I just want to get your thought on that.
So that challenge is always anybody has a challenge. You have a challenge. I have. Everybody has challenges. It's not just us. So when we came to the industry, yes, we had a lot of barriers, a lot of things happening because people were setting their norms and a lot of things. But one thing that we believe in is, one thing that both Santosh and I adhere to is, we respect our opposing views. We might not agree with it, but respect. So as long as you respect the opposing views, you can avoid confrontation. If you know what you are doing is right, and if the opposing view has a valid objective point, we do change it. Now, say for example, when we came to the industry, a lot of people were just saying we were destroying culture. So everybody who says that, we ask, can you tell us a point where we destroy? Most of them can't answer that. No, you're just, then we know that it's just the emotional trigger that they want to change. But if you know, the songwriter called Hilar and Kasim,
yes,
he was a critic of ours. Reading all his articles, initially we thought it was emotional trigger as well, but then reading more of his articles, we realized that he was addressing the literature problem in the language problem.
Okay.
When we were doing Sinhala, he was saying that Sinhala Sahitya mein vatna. So instead of ignoring that or opposing that, we talked to him and we got him on board to do Unmadani with us. From that day onwards, Hilar and Kasim has written the most number of hit songs done by one person, in terms of the song lyrics. So Unmadani, Hirikodu, Chandani Paela. In that particular album, there are a few more songs.
Yes.
Then Katu Pempatum Gumna De Hitanamrata. Then even the latest Unmad Premagiya is his.
Okay.
So that was a long-term relationship that we built, and it really contributed. So when you do something new, you will get resistance. For that resistance, you needn't panic. You take it objectively, and also people who are opposing you, the best thing is to convince them about your opinion, and it may be today, tomorrow. If they understand what you're doing is right, they will come on to yours.
Fantastic.
It might happen in 20 years. It might happen in 20 years.
Yeah.
So don't see anybody as a threat. Don't see anybody as a challenge. What you need to do is, this is another school of thought that we have to capture.
Fantastic.
How you have to look at it. then it's very easy for you to start understanding their mindset and then delivering your message to them the way they understand.
Absolutely.
So when we did the remake of Sirisanga Bodhi, people who didn't understand, they understood us when we did Nanani. They understood us They understood us when we did Chandani Payal.
Right.
So we delivered the same message, but
different way.
In a different form. So that is how we could win the hearts and the mindsets of a majority in the country.
And there's a change in culture as well now.
Yeah, so that culture changed over years because you need to know anything. You won't become a boom. There are like, even if you take songs like Netara and all, those were like our immediate hits. But those were not the points which changed the whole game.
Absolutely.
But songs like Na Na Na, it was songs like Chandri Paela, which we did with Sri Shamalang. Then it was songs like Patu Pem Patum. It was songs like that. So those embedded the thinking into the current young generation. And today, even if you take Siri Sangabodhi Maligavidi, the remake, today, now I sang it recently in front of about 2,000 kids at a university. Every kid knows this song. They sing it by heart. But most of the people from my generation can't sing it by heart. It takes time. It takes time. It's like a good cup of tea. The moment you put the tea bag, you don't get the proper flavor. No, it has to brew.
Yes.
So anything new has to brew to the right point.
You need time. You need time. I think it's a behavior. I think human behavior is such, right? It takes a lot of time to learn. So, Bathiya, I think just one quick tip from your end in terms of music and emotion. What would you give an advice? Because we have just 1 minute left on the clock. A quick one.
My advice to them is that follow your passion, but also note that music is created with passion, but your career is built up by a lot of objective thinking. So you have to know where to draw the line to stop being emotional and to be objective, and to stop being objective and to be emotional. So you have to draw the line between being emotional and the emotions and the objectivity. That's the only way that you can thrive.
Fantastic.
So that's one advice that I normally give to every young person, because there is a part of your life you need to do with this. There's another part of your life that you have to take decisions with this. So
fantastic.
Get that right balance and you will win life.
Thank you very much.
You're doing it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the time what we have for today. My key takeaway is passion is really important, and being the objective as well. I hope our listeners got plenty of takeaway, and my heartfelt gratitude to Bathiya Jayakody, member of BNS. And thank you very much, Bathiya, for a lovely time. And it's been amazing listening to you. Thank you.